Let's have a look at Nova Scotia back in 1964. There's Peggy's Cove, and it's pretty much the same. Those rocks, yeah, they're about 1.3 billion years old, so they haven't changed a whole lot, actually. They don't, it takes a long time for them to change.
Hey, look, there's some wonderful crabs down here.
Boats, lobster traps, here's a bunch of whales.
Hey, you guys got any whales?
Oh, that's a lot of whale. That's, holy shit. I did not expect to see that. That's fucking gruesome. You animals, get off that, what are you doing, man? I mean, look at the muscles on these guys. You gotta be if you're hauling fucking whales around. Magnetic Hill, that's where you go. It feels like you're going upside down when you're going up Magnetic Hill. Especially if you're in a Volkswagen van. I can barely make it up this. Why is it going backwards? I guess that's what you have to do to go up the Magnetic Hill is get into an accident with your VW. Holy, this hill is not magnetic, it's just lovely. 1965, surprisingly nice highways back then, you know.
Hey, get out of here, Bugs. There's some lovely filth down here, Bill. Anyone seen my dog? Quack.
Moo. Yeah, things were different back then. Baka! 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 Has anyone seen my lobster?
Wanna get married someday, Peg?
No. Oh, look, there's a new church we can go to over there. Even back in 1951, there was Niagara Falls. See? People would go there and look and say, look, the Niagara Falls. Sometimes people would go over in barrels, sometimes in canoes. Back in the year 1812, the Americans tried to take Niagara Falls. They coveted it for themselves. They looked at their Niagara Falls and they sucked. So they decided to invade Upper Canada, try to get our Niagara Falls. They were unsuccessful. Some of them went over the falls, I think. This boat's called the Mating of the Mist. Nobody loves Marineland. I heard that's what Marineland did. They let the dolphins go back into the wild. They went over the waterfalls and made their way back to the ocean. Back to Halifax, 1971. They still had a nice bridge back then. They still got a nice bridge today. You got to pay to go across it. Imagine that. You got to pay to go to Truro. That's why most people just stay in Halifax.
Hey, look, honey, the cannon is my cock.
Montreal was still a pretty big town back in 1949. Big buildings. There's some big buildings there. Lots of trees though back then too. This is Mount Royal, obviously they're on. Holy, that guy. Nice outfit, bud. Here's the world's slowest train, conducted by Alphonse. Look at it go. It'll take you 6 hours to get from one block to the next. They don't care. They're having a good time. Slow enough the guy's hat can stay on his head at least. Drive past the cigarette dealership there. Important part of Montreal's history is smoking. But by 1962, Montreal turned into a thriving metropolis with the world's first snowmobile. Whee! Oh, I broke my cigarette. Whee! There's some cigarettes over there. What in the heck is that thing? 1960s, Collingwood, Ontario. Lots of Union Jacks flying around there. I mean, people really love the Queen. People just standing around. Oh, that's why. There's a parade going on. Look at these babes marching around. What the heck is this? This is completely wrong. We got some kind of an angry goat. The what? Man, this is cultish. Is this every day in Collingwood, Ontario? Probably not. This is probably just once a week. Marching band there, all in there with the boats, even though there's not really any. Well, I guess there's boats in Collingwood. It's on Georgian Bay there. Here comes all the nurses. Here comes some more marching guys. A lot of marching people. People like to march around in Collingwood back then. That was holy. Look at this. She is totally fucked. Isn't that the worst sound in the whole world, actually? The bagpipes. Hooray for Jesus! Hooray for the Queen! I mean, this is the most extraordinary bunch of marching I've ever seen. Hey, why'd you guys stop marching? Get marching. People marching around. So much. This was the marching capital of the world at one time, Collingwood, Ontario. And this, holy, hey, this was before drugs were everywhere. So people, you know, they marched. And here we go, the 1962 Santa Claus Parade in Toronto, Ontario. The Enchanted Winds. That's the most fabulous bunch of floats. Here's the Knights and the Peckerhead guy. My God, look out for that whale! These floats were awesome. Actually, full marks. People tried back then. And no one's on cell phones, just everyone having a good time. Watching the marching. If there's one thing I learned about Ontario in the 1960s today, it was how much marching people seem to do. And parades, people were big on parades back then. This is a terrifying elephant, because if you weren't parading around, you were watching the one channel. Wild West, more inappropriate things there. There's a giant duck. I mean, this is, and a whole bunch of little dogs following it, and giant heads. These are amazing floats. People put a lot of effort into these back then. They had nothing else to do, so they just sat around all year making giant heads for that one day they could walk around and wave at everybody. And this. Look at this thing. You don't see floats like that anymore, do you? I don't know. No one watches parades, so I wouldn't know. Last time I was in Toronto, I didn't see a parade. Certainly not. Not for the Maple Leafs, at least I didn't. Whoa, hey! I mean, there's more people in the parade than there is watching. That tells you a lot about Toronto back then, about Ontario in general. We're still waiting for the arrival of Santa Claus. Seen lots of terrifying clowns so far. On guard! These guys are going to track those clowns down. There we go. This looks like maybe something Santa might be. There he is. There's the old man himself. Kris Kringle and his reindeers. There he is, waving around, and people are pretty happy, it looks like. There's one kid waving. People were reserved back then. If you weren't in the parade, you weren't allowed to do much. You're supposed to just stand there. And there's everyone going home happy. They've seen a nice parade, and now they're all going to go home and get their wooden horses for Christmas. And look at this guy. Finally, we get to some cool stuff. The Toronto Air Show, 1963. Look at these badass airplanes. Here's 4 of them going upside down. They could do that back then. Here's some, they're trying to kill everyone in Toronto with chemtrails. That's what's going on. The chemtrail conspiracy. And at the Canadian National Exhibition back then, they did have the Puka Whirl, the Fartatron, the little teacups that go around. And this is the Gravo Bouncer. I used to love going to the CNE in Ontario Place when I was a kid. Didn't do it very often, but a couple times we went. It was like the cheap person's version of Canada's Wonderland. And up to cottage country in the 1960s. Hold my beer! Nice belly flop, buddy. People were strong back then. They didn't eat McDonald's all day.
Get off my fucking raft!
Get off your fucking raft! Nice muscles, kids. See, people were strong back then. Even little kids showing off. And this is how they got strong. They rode their boats around. Not a care in the world. Throwing all the water that's getting in out. When I grow up, I want to be a whale. It was the golden age of water skiing. Not for this guy. And here's everyone going to church. Here's everyone getting out of church. Here's more people going to church. Toronto in the 1960s. People went to church a lot. Water skied, went to church, went to marches, parades. Here's everyone going to a church. Oh, we're late for church. And more parades in Toronto in the 60s. This one's for the Grey Cup in 1961. Can you imagine a parade for the Grey Cup? I mean, who cares?